They called her Yara Keen, survivor of 1,000 battlefronts. On Thalora III, a moon scarred by acid rains and razor forests, they believed nothing could kill Warrior Prime, but they had never faced us. The Zephyr were legends. Tall, bone-crusted, immune to radiation, hardened by starving planetary storms. They boasted across the galactic diaspora. "We have conquered worlds hellish enough to break gods. Bring us something weaker." They got one. The drop pod shattered out of slipspace and crashed into the frozen plains of Thalora III, land of shattered hulls and insects the size of boulders. Yara opened her visor. An alien warrior stood at the edge of the crater, watching her rise from broken metal. He cracked a malformed grin. "Human survived the fall." Yara spat the Martian blood from her mouth. "Not yet." That was all she said. But it was enough. Her mission: rescue Zephyr Captain Rakath, the only one still holding their command beacon. His pride wouldn't let mercy blind him, but honor demanded a rescue. Yara moved first. She'd learned from Earth's hardest schools, Siberian mountain patrols, Cydonia dust storms, orbital survival training near Neptune. Resilience was her armor. Her boots crushed icy glass. The air shimmered with cold. Still, she tracked movement. Through ruined pylons, ancient wrecks, and crystalline fungi, Yara spotted him. The Zephyr, massive jagged armor plates, dual scythe arms staring at him, were 3 plasma mines strapped to his chest, weak, fragile, helpless. She approached, rifle pointed, cautious yet swift. "Stand down," she whispered. "Captain Rakath, I'm Yara Keen of the Terran Vanguard. I'm here to retrieve you." He sized her up, thin, younger than his grandmother's grandmother's. Unlikely. Yet his eyes, storm grey, never flickered. Finally, "We do not flee," he growled, "but we obey duty." Yara knelt slowly, pulling tools from her pack. "Let me help." He let her cut the wires. Each snip sang across the frozen plain. He breathed. A primal scream tore from the stone forest behind them. A giant rhino beetle the size of a ground cruiser charged. Yara threw Rakath behind cover. She flicked her wrist. The exovine scarf looped the beast's horn, yanked. Its head slammed against ice. She kicked it. It faltered. Rakath roared and plunged his scythe arms into its carapace. Plasma soaked through chitin. They stood together, alien and human, survivor and savior. They turned back toward the pod, slow and bloody. The sky cracked. Another Zephyr warband landed nearby. More arrogance, more belief that they were unstoppable. They were wrong. Yara turned to Rakath. "You're too valuable to die free-falling." He looked at her. "Perhaps you are. Valuable too." She smiled, cold and hard. "Let's survive." Together, they walked toward the new Zephyr warband. And so began a partnership, neither expected, until they met humans, until they came calling as they stepped beyond the crash crater. A pack of Zephyr warriors, eyes like black crystals lit by hate. Their bone plate armor glowed with battle scars. They had heard the crash. They assumed the pilot, first casualty. Instead, they found Yara Keen and Captain Rakath, bleeding but breathing, standing back to back with scavenged rifle and alien scythe. They froze. 2 survivors, 2 threats. But Zephyr were not cautious. They charged. Yara fired first. Plasma bolts seared through the crimson fog, lighting up jagged armor. She ducked behind the shattered fuselage, agile as a wind-blown barn owl. Rakath roared, his scythe arms clenched, etched with glowing runes that reflected the alien sky. He vaulted high, his claws snapping through battle harnesses, ripping shields like paper. Zephyr fell. They pressed on, no pause. Wounds didn't slow them. If anything, it fueled them. Yara ducked behind a twisted fin array, reloading with gloved hands slick with blood and dirt. Every muscle screamed. She fired once more. A bolt caught a warrior mid-stride. He dropped, landing with a brittle crack. They moved, exiting the crash zone, entering the denser forest of razor-leaf trees. Spikes sliced the horizon. Alien drums filled the air. Rakath hissed behind her. They came in numbers, "We are outnumbered." "I'm counting on that," Yara replied, her breath visible in the Martian cold air. Two scalars rising together, human and Zephyr sharing heartbeat and fear. She led him through a narrow tunnel of foliage. The fallen log overhead was thick with ice, just enough to hide them from above. They sprinted in low light, stalking the path Yara knew from orbital scans. A faint signal blinked on her HUD. "Extraction point, 10 clicks northeast." "3 clicks," she whispered. Rakath nodded, his eyes narrowed, his inner armor shifted, letting glow escape from beneath his plates. At river crossing, a line of acid-etched basalt, they paused. Rakath knelt, one clawed hand dipping into toxic runoff, drawing it up with slow reverence. Then he hissed, "Your water is warm." Yara allowed a smile. "It's called coffee." She rummaged in her pack, pulling out a small thermos. She held it to his snout. He sniffed, then sipped. Her face was wet with ash. So was his. They drank. From the shadowed cavern above, a voice crackling with bone and grit. "Huntress." Rakath turned. The warband came into view, 5 Zephyr veterans, each with scythe arms at ease, bone crust ridged. Their leader stepped forward, horns arced back, mandible joints clicking in challenge. "This is not your war." Yara stood. She stepped forward, ripping the empty thermos and tossing it to the snow. She unhooked her scarf, looped it tight around her rifle. "This is my world. I came through the stars to get him back." Rakath placed a taloned hand on Yara's shoulder. She raised her hand in salute, a gesture of humanity, open palm towards them. The Zephyr exchanged glances. Then weapons lowered slightly. Their leader tilted his head. "Warrior Prime, you claim this human's loyalty. What proof?" Rakath snarled. He reached into his chest plate, producing a small crystal shard, the beacon he'd carried through Death Cloud and Acid Swamp. It glowed dimly in the Martian light. "This and this." He gestured to Yara, a tense silence. Then the veteran nodded once. "Sharp as bone spear break. Then she goes with you." They moved again, 4 Zephyr trailing, but not hostile. A ragtag escort. Humility among warriors. Yara glanced at Rakath. He gave her a small bow of respect. It didn't need translation. From the forest edge came another signal. Enemy fighters trailing dust, following their lead. Yara tapped her HUD. "Extraction point now. 2 clicks." Rakath's voice. "You never asked why." She met his gaze, steady. "Because knowing why doesn't stop it." They ran. The hunt was still on. The extraction point wasn't a landing pad, it was a canyon. Narrow, silent, hidden beneath Martian moss and stone. Yara dropped to one knee, checking her rifle's power cell. The last bar blinked red. One more volley, maybe 2, then fists and teeth. Beside her, Rakath breathed heavily. One of his secondary arms hung limp, plasma-burned and oozing pale fluid. His carapace was cracked from the last ambush. Still, he stood tall. Their allies, the Zephyr veterans, formed a circle around them, watching the ridge above. A storm was coming, and with it the Black Fang mercenaries, not Zephyr, worse, alien scavengers, trophy takers. Known for painting their armor with blood and wire, they came for Rakath, and now they'd have to go through Yara Keen. She didn't ask why he was so important. She'd pieced it together. He wasn't just a commander. He was the last of his clutch, a war leader who had once defied his own kind to save civilians during the siege of Dalphus III. The Galactic Federation had offered him protection in exchange for testimony. Instead, he vanished. Now she knew why. He hadn't vanished. He'd been hunted. And when he tried to reach Earth for sanctuary, they shot his ship out of orbit. That's when her unit responded, and she, the only survivor, had chosen to stay behind. 3 minutes, she muttered, checking the homing beacon. Then evac. Rakath nodded. They will be here in 2. As if on cue, a blast of plasma lit up the sky. From the canyon rim, armored shapes emerged, tall, brutish, with glowing faceplates and scavenged gear. Black Fang, 20, maybe more. Too many. One of the Zephyr grunted. "We hold," another whispered. "We fall with honor." Yara rose, wiping blood from her cheek with the back of her hand. Screw on her, fall after the ship gets here. The battle began before anyone gave the order. Rakath launched first, a blur of scythe and fury. His good arm cleaved through two Blackfang soldiers before they even registered movement. Yara fired from behind a jagged rock, taking out their sniper on the ridge. The Zephyr formed a wedge formation, ancient war tactic, bones locked in unity. Still, the enemy pressed. Yara ducked as plasma scorched overhead. A grenade landed beside her. She kicked it back, watching it arc into a cluster of Blackfang, erupting mid-air. Screams, smoke, then more footfalls. They kept coming. She was out of ammo now. Yara pulled her combat blade, not high-tech, just steel, reliable. She darted between broken stone and fallen bodies, stabbing where armor failed, where joints bent. A Blackfang soldier grabbed her arm, lifted her from the ground. She spat in his faceplate. He roared and was immediately cut in half by Rakath's scythe. Yara hit the dirt hard, rolled and stood. "You always this dramatic," Rakath replied with a snarl that could have been a chuckle. Behind them the beacon beeped louder. Incoming ship, the roar of engines. Finally. The dropship crested the canyon wall, twin engines glowing like suns. It hovered over the ridge, side hatch open, but the Blackfang were between them and safety. One final push. "Go," Yara shouted. Rakath hesitated. "You'll never make it unless—" She grabbed his arm. "No speeches. We run. Now." They sprinted, dodging blasts, slashing at anything in their way. The Zephyr followed, covering their flank. One fell, then another. Still, they ran. Yara was bleeding from 3 different places when she reached the drop ramp. She turned, extended a hand. Rakath leapt. The ramp lifted. Behind them, plasma fire rained down from the ship's guns, carving a fiery scar into the canyon floor. The Blackfang scattered, then vanished. Safe. Rakath leaned against the wall, breathing shallowly. Yara slumped to the floor across from him. "What now?" she asked. Rakath looked at her, then slowly extended a small insignia, a polished shard of bone etched with Zephyr script. "I name you Bloodbound." Yara stared at it. She took it. The medbay lights were too white, too clean. Yara hated it. She sat on the edge of a diagnostics table, her arm wrapped in nanogel, bruises crawling like maps across her ribs. Across from her, a glass wall separated her from the man. No, the creature, in charge of this place. Federation agent Threx, tall, silver-eyed, skin like molten pearl, voice like static run through velvet. Too smooth, too sure of himself. "You interfered with a protected operation, Sergeant Keene." Yara didn't even blink. "Your protected operation left a living being to die on a hostile rock. I call that abandonment. You disobeyed orders. You diverted a military evac ship without clearance. You released classified information to an unregistered alien." She leaned forward. "His name is Rakath. He's saved more lives than your entire department." Agent Threx's smile never reached his eyes. "He is a liability. The Blackfang were tracking him across 3 systems. He leads death, not peace." "He leads honor," she snapped. Threx paused. "I see. So you've chosen a side." Yara stood slowly. Her side ached like hell. But her eyes were steady. Yeah, the right one. They grounded her, suspended her commission. Officially, she was on indefinite leave pending tribunal review. Unofficially, a shadow war was unfolding. And she'd just declared herself a target. She moved into a quiet orbital station above Andar Prime. Small quarters, cheap rent, fewer questions. Rakath stayed close. The Zephyr war leader was still recovering, exoskeletal plates replaced, internal injuries stabilizing slowly. They didn't talk much those first few days. Just drank, sat in silence, watched old holovids of ancient Earth wars. Sometimes he asked about trench warfare. Sometimes she asked about hive songs, odd friendship, but real. One night he looked up and asked, "Why do humans fight so hard, even when the outcome is hopeless?" Yara swirled the amber liquid in her glass. "Because hope isn't something you wait for," she said. "It's something you make, with your hands." Your heart. Your pain. Rakath lowered his head. Then Earth is more dangerous than we knew, she chuckled. Damn right. The Black Fang weren't done. They didn't just want Rakath. They wanted to make a message of him. Anyone who protected him became a target. A few quiet deaths on backwater colonies started appearing on the fringe networks. People Yara knew. Old unit members, refugees, whistleblowers. They weren't just cleaning up. They were preparing something. Rakath called a meeting. Yara arrived to find 3 more Zephyr waiting, armor-scarred, eyes haunted, and 1 human, a wiry man named Dax, former intelligence agent gone rogue. We have a problem, Rakath said. Dax tossed a holopad on the table. It flickered to life, showing grainy footage. A factory hidden in an asteroid belt, crawling with Black Fang engineers, building something. Massive, weaponized. Federation's pretending they don't see it, Dax said. This is off books. No oversight, no law. They've gone full deniable assets. Yara crossed her arms. How long until it's active? 2 weeks. Maybe less. She didn't ask what it was. She didn't need to. If it came online, entire planets would burn. That night, she stood on the balcony of the station, stars swirling above. Rakath joined her, slow and heavy-footed. You could walk away, he said. No shame in survival. She looked out at the stars, fists clenched. Walking away is how we got here. She turned to face him, jaw set. We stop them. All of us. Rakath bowed his head slightly. The Zephyr gesture of allegiance. So be it. Blood-bound. Until the end. Until the stolen Black Fang dropship shook as it punched through the atmosphere of asteroid K-177. Inside the dim red lights of the cabin, Yara locked her armor into place. Old Earth tech, patched and scorched, reinforced with Zephyr alloy plating. Scarred like her soul. Rakath sat across from her, strapping in a pulse spear longer than he was tall. Beside him, 2 more Zephyr veterans clutched plasma carbines shaped like bone. Dax muttered something in the corner, fingers dancing over a scrambled transmitter. Yara's heart pounded. Not from fear, from purpose. They weren't just infiltrating a weapons facility. They were striking a match in a powder room built to ignite a war. 10 seconds, Dax called. Yara stood, one hand on her rifle, the other over her chest. Her fingers touched the dog tags underneath. Her mother's. Let's remind them, she growled, why you don't poke a sleeping deathworld. The breach was brutal. Explosives cut the hull. Gas hissed. Lights died. Yara dropped first, boots crunching on ferrosteel, rifle raised. Alarms howled. A Black Fang enforcer turned toward her, 2 meters tall, mechanical limbs bristling with blades. She didn't hesitate. 2 shots to the chest, 1 to the head. The body collapsed like scrap metal. The Zephyr moved like a pack of ghosts, silent and deadly. In moments, the first corridor was clear. Yara pushed forward, room by room, floor by floor. They found the main reactor chamber and the horror it powered. A ship. No, a weapon disguised as one. Dark hull, shaped like a jagged wound in space. No engines, no bridge. It pulsed like something alive. Rakath stared, mandibles twitching. It's not a warship. It's a hive seeder. They're planning to implant it on a planet. Breed Black Fang directly into the biosphere. Yara's blood turned to ice. Earth, she whispered. They planted the charges fast, but time ran out faster. Black Fang reinforcements surged in wave after wave. 1 Zephyr was torn apart before Yara could even turn. Dax went down with a shot to the chest, barely crawling behind cover. They were outgunned, outnumbered, cornered. Yara took a hit to the shoulder. Her rifle sparked, dead. Rakath tossed her his blade. You cannot die here, he snarled. You are the spark. She screamed and charged. Her blade cut through 3 before the 4th tackled her. She twisted, drove the hilt into its throat, rolled free. She didn't fight like a soldier. She fought like a storm. The detonation timer blinked. 35. 0034. Rakath limped to her side, covered in blood. The other Zephyr gone. Dax unconscious. We must go. Yara looked at the escape corridor, then back at the weapon. If it survived the blast, I'll stay, she said. No, Rakath growled. This is not your war alone. She touched his arm. It was always ours. They dragged Dax to the ship, sealed the doors. Yara stood alone at the reactor, bleeding, breathing, alive. The timer hit 0. The explosion lit up the void. The Black Fang hive weapon disintegrated into stars. The war hadn't ended, but in that moment a legend was born, a human warrior, a deathworld girl who burned away a future of nightmares with nothing but fury and hope. The fireball of the explosion had long since faded, but its echoes still haunted every Black Fang frequency. The cedar weapon was gone, and so was Yara Keen. Or so they thought. Aboard a drifting Zephyr medical vessel, orbiting an uncharted moon, a battered figure lay in the stasis pod. Muscle burned, skin torn, synthetic veins pulsing with borrowed nanites. Yara, alive. Barely. Rakath stood nearby, watching the monitors. His carapace was cracked, one eye missing, but his spirit burned fiercer than ever. She survived your death world, a Zephyr healer hissed in reverence. Now she survives ours. Weeks passed, galactic networks flickered with rumors. A failed Black Fang weapon, a human strike team, a lone female warrior who stared death in the face and taught it fear. The tale spread like wildfire. They called her the Death Flame, a myth, a warning, a hope. Across fringe colonies, humans whispered her name when shadows grew too long. On Zephyr worlds, her sigil was painted on armor. Even the aloof Arcellans began to take notice. One act had shifted the balance of the entire war, but for Yara, recovery was not about medals or legend. It was about vengeance, unfinished. Months later, her eyes opened, cold white ceiling, a soft beeping. She sat up slowly, wincing. Rakath entered. You live, he said simply. Unfortunately, she rasped, cracking a smile. Did we win? Not yet. Then we're not done. She returned to Earth once, only briefly. The old forest still stood. The oceans still whispered. The stars overhead still pulsed with promise and pain. She knelt by her mother's grave. I kept the promise, she whispered. We weren't just survivors, we fought. She placed something in the soil, a broken Black Fang blade, scorched from the reactor's blast. Then she left. Now, Yara leads. Not a battalion, not a fleet, a movement, Zephyr, human, Urun. Even deserter Arcellan's warriors who'd seen the edge of galactic darkness and chose to push back. They called themselves the Fireborn, and their motto, let them come, we are Deathworld's children. One final message leaked through every channel in the galaxy. A video, brief, grainy, deliberate. Yara stood at the edge of a ruined Black Fang outpost, ashes falling like snow. She stared directly into the camera, her voice low. Calm. You survived Deathworlds. We were forged by one. She turned and walked into the dark, rifle on her back. The transmission ended, and the galaxy knew. The humans had not yet begun to fight.